we know that Total has acquired Tullow's oil stake in the Tilenga project, and therefore the Uganda's oil and gas aspirations are moving ahead, and this puts the country back on track to target the long-awaited FID, in other words, the final investment decision. There's also work on the $3.5 billion East Africa crude pipeline project that this is also going along, and this is inching Uganda closer to first oil. The transaction signals a big shift in East Africa's oil and gas sector, as both Ugandans and East Africans as a whole will benefit from getting the Tilenga project off the ground. So, Honorable Elly, I'd like to ask you, how do you see the Total's acquisition of Tullow oil stake in the Tilenga project impacting Uganda's oil and gas sector?
Elizabeth, I think this acquisition brings a lot of hope in the journey, in the long journey that we have had since the discovery of oil in 2006-7 in Uganda. We have learned a lot about oil and its ups and downs, how to negotiate for those contracts, how difficult it is. We've learned our lessons. The politicians have learned their lessons. The government has learned its lessons. The oil companies have learned their lessons in how to work with the interior in Africa. And so this decision by Total coming as it's done at a time like this, when the oil prices are completely depressed, almost embarrassing levels, when their share prices of every company in the oil and gas sector has fallen from the roof, it is amazing that Total could make a decision like invest more than $500 million into the Albertine grabbing at a time like this.
This is an adrenaline shot in the arm of Uganda, but also across East Africa. Given the capital-constrained world that we are in today, you've seen all of the majors and indeed the mid-sized and smaller caps reducing their capital expenditure budgets. But what you have here is a major with the financial muscle to make long-term investment decisions. And so, I mean, clearly, we saw the financial malaise that Tullow had, but with Total coming in, and even if CNOOC preempt, those are, you know, majors that are able to inject capital into this project. When you think about COVID, you know, I think that does not take away from an FID decision. I think the bigger challenge is around project execution post the FID decision, yeah, where, you know, in terms of being able to mobilize workforce and labor, depending on how long COVID goes on or how we can contain it, that might be a challenge that needs to be looked at. But the FID decision itself, I don't think is something that would be delayed by COVID, but it would be the project execution and the timelines and the critical path for the project based on the ability to mobilize people. Yeah? But I think indeed this is good. Also given that, as NJ mentioned, if you look at Ghana and Jubilee and the time to first oil, I think in East Africa we have struggled a little bit with getting projects over the line to FID, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda. So this really is an adrenaline shot. And it also, you know, puts the impetus squarely on the other countries in the region to try and also get their projects going.
Let me stand up for us entrepreneurs. It's a two-way street. As much as we, you know, go after these opportunities, foreign companies as well as foreign oil companies need to be open and realize that the companies they're seeing now are not the companies that they saw in 2000. I'm talking about the domestic companies. So we've got quite a number of local formed or regional formed companies that have got quite a lot of expertise gained through maybe through strategic partnerships. So there's definitely a change from the scene from when you compare it from 2000. I'd like to move to
Elizabeth. Let me interrupt you there. I think you're right, but this is like dating. You go out there and find it. You are the hunter. You're not going to wait for Total to come find you. You're not going to wait for CNOOC to come find you. Pack up your bags, go out there and knock on that door and say, let me in. I think that idea that we're going to think that these companies are going to come, they're going to find us, they're going to hand something to us because we happen to be local and regional. There is nobody that advocates local content more than I do, but you got to let your light shine. You have to be on the table. If you don't try to push yourself to be on the table, you're going to be on the menu. So don't wait. If you had a brochure, or you had a submission, or you went through the whole due diligence and qualification programs 4 or 5 years ago, and you think they're going to call you, maybe you had the wrong email or your phone number has changed already. Now get your stuff together, go right back and say, hello, remember me? I'm still here. I'm still hanging. I want to be on the list. They would not come find you. They will make availability for those who are hungry. Right now, a lot of people are hurting and hungry. So don't wait for Total to come find you. If you're listening, get out there, call them, tweet them. I sent a tweet yesterday, 2 days ago, on Total, and guess what? They tweeted me back. They want me to shut up. They tweeted me back, and we had a conversation. So you go out there and tweet, call, link, walk into their office, put up your stuff and say, I'm ready. What am I missing? Don't wait for Total. Total has money. You need Total more than Total needs you.
We should not be very excited about Total or Sinok trying to fight for local content for us. These companies already have suppliers who are very well known, who are very efficient, and who will help them to meet their objectives in time and on cost. We, the local content people, are going to be literally interfering in their usual business. So but we must interfere because we are also protected by the law. In the case of Uganda, almost 26 jobs have been ring-fenced for local content companies. But I'm not very excited about the Uganda local content companies only without the region. Because when you look at Mozambique, Cabo Delgado is nearer to Kampala than it is to Maputo. They have discovered a business in gas there, which is worth 120 billion. Ours is about 20 billion in totality, if you look at the other aspects. So they are 6 times bigger than us. When you look at Tanzania, the oil, the gas resources they have are, in excess of 4 or 5 times of what we have in Uganda. When you look at the discoveries in Kenya going on, it's very impressive, and I'm sure they are going to discover more oil and more gas. When you look at South Sudan, the situation is more established than anywhere else because for them, they're in production. Only the politics have disrupted them, but they have sorted it out now, hopefully, and they are ready. When you look at DRC, Lake Albert region where we have the oil, the other day I was saying it's like being in a swimming pool, and Uganda has half of the swimming pool, and DRC has the other side of the swimming pool. So there is oil in this. So now Uganda is a complete nucleus right at the center of this local content. And these countries have their own local content laws and policies, which are almost the same as Uganda's. What we need in order to make an impression is take the opportunity of what God has put in front of us as a region and operate. And if Uganda becomes the first country to produce oil in this region, then it will be the first country to develop its local content and people can try. But Ugandans, I argue to try and look for partners in Tanzania, in Kenya, in South Sudan, in DRC, and in Mozambique. Because once those people open up, instead of going to Thailand and Korea and China and wherever else in Europe to look for players, they will be looking for us because we shall have proven to them that we are capable of doing the job.
I think to see a total picture, one has to also look at it from the government's perspective. So governments around the world, not just Uganda or this region, around the world, are very cautious to reopen any PSC renegotiations because, as you can imagine, when PSCs are negotiated, these are long-term contracts, they're very strong, On the basis of these contracts, ministries and governments project revenues and make plans. So reopening a production sharing contract is not a simple thing. And so it should be understood why governments are really not, I wouldn't say against it, but take a more cautious or conservative approach. That must be understood and by everyone who's on this call. So with respect, so on the basis of that, I think coming to Uganda's case, there's the best time for companies to come in and negotiate is of course prior to the signing. And we are going through a second licensing round right now in Uganda. We have model PSAs. That provides a very good opportunity for companies to come in and negotiate the best deals that they can. Because what you're doing is you're allocating value. And so renegotiating a PSC is reallocating value. That, of course, as you can imagine from a government perspective, is a very uncomfortable thing. So, and then, of course, it is true we are in a COVID situation, but one must recognize that these PSAs are 25-year-long PSAs, sometimes longer. So COVID, which may be 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, let's say 5 years, is still shorter than the term of the PSA. So it's not simply that because it's you can't just negotiate and change the 35-year term structure on the basis of 1 or 2 incidents. Something that is a bit more practical, and I think the government of Uganda, the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, is also considering, and I know the same thing is happening in Ghana, I know it's happening in Kenya and all over the world, is the structure of the production sharing contracts is in terms, initial term, first period, second period. It is possible to negotiate extensions of periods for companies to fulfill their work obligations. That is a more practical way of getting some relief for the companies.
I think Uganda is going to be an amazing play. I think for many service companies that are taking a hit from COVID-19, Uganda has given some hope to the oil and gas industry in the region. Take it serious. It is, there is no better time to get engaged and get to play in that region right now, but also for local, regional, and African companies, this is a time to really extend your reach